Hi friends, my name is Lakin Carter and welcome to my YouTube channel. So I enjoyed last week's yoga flow where I kind of broke down a pose instead of focusing on a physical body part so much that I decided to do a little mini series on that type of flow style. So today we are going to be doing a chair pose or Utkatasana yoga practice focus. So I'll be warming up the body just a little bit, but mainly focusing on chair pose as a pose, spending a lot of time in kind of breaking down how the pose looks, how all of the muscles kind of come together to create that pose, and then just doing some different variations of that specific pose. So I hope you guys enjoy this style of yoga practice, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, I didn't mention it in the intro, but you will not need any equipment, just your mat and yourself. If you don't have a yoga mat, just grab something soft to work on and you'll be good to go. So before we get into kind of warming up the body, I'm going to show you chair pose. Alright, so as I mentioned previously, it's also called Utkatasana in the Sanskrit. Alright, let's get into it. So you're going to take a nice wide stance with your feet about hip width distance apart. So hip width distance just make sure that your hips kind of align with your ankles. Alright, you're going to take a nice deep bend into the knees. A lot of weight is going to be resting on the quads, and we're going to pause here. So I'm going to really break this pose down. When you are in chair pose, you're going to be externally rotating the thighs while still keeping the knees over the ankles. So your knees aren't going to be knocked in together, they're not going to be spread wide. With your feet planted, your thighs are going to be externally rotated, knees slightly over, maybe a little bit the ankles. Make sure you're able to see your toes. Alright, so now that we've got that leg structure, let's look at the core. I want you to tuck in the belly button, push it up to the spine. You don't want that big dip in your low back, so push that belly button to spine, knit the ribs in together, nice tall chest, open shoulders, and then you're going to reach the arms up. Alright, so wrists kind of in line with shoulders, keeping that back nice and neutral, nice and long, and importantly also to note is that that gaze is forward. Alright, so your gaze isn't up like this, your gaze isn't down, but it's forward so that that head and that kind of tailbone are in the same line. Alright, so there you have the traditional chair pose or Utkatasana in yoga. Let's go ahead and power up to stand, and then we'll make our way over to tabletop. Alright, just a little warm up of the legs. Chair pose is often called fire pose as well, and that's because of the fiery sensation in the quads. A really strong, powerful pose in the legs, graceful in the upper body. Alright, let's get into tabletop position. So from here, let's go ahead and do a few cat-cow flows. Inhale, drop the belly, gazes forward. Exhale, round through the spine, gaze towards the knees. Inhale, spread the collarbone. Exhale, dip the back. One more time, inhale. Hammock through the spine, any amount. And exhale, neutral spine. Or rounded spine. Let's come to neutral. And if you think about it, this is where you want your spine to be in chair pose. Alright, so you don't want this exaggeration, you don't want this exaggeration, but you want just a neutral spine in chair pose. Go ahead and keep those hands grounded onto the mat, fingers spread nice and wide, and then we're going to go ahead and extend that right leg. Make sure those hips are nice and even, don't spill that right hip up, left hip down, even out those hips. We're going to tap the toes down and then lift up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good, go ahead and draw that right knee in and then extend through the left leg. Again, hips nice and even. Drop the toes, lift up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, go ahead and drop that knee. Come back to that neutral table, and you're extending again through that right leg. Go ahead and lift the toes up. And instead of dropping and lifting, we're gonna go ahead and exhale, crunch to the left elbow and extend for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Extend and set that knee down. Once more on the other side. So we're gonna extend that leg, even out the hips. Inhale first, exhale, twist it to the left. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Extend and set it down. Good, now walking those hands forward, right hand, then left hand. Go ahead and tuck the toes. Inhale first, exhale it up and back to downward facing dog. Now there is a sun salutation with that chair pose in it, so I thought we could go ahead and flow through that. So we're gonna inhale, bend through the knees, gaze is forward. Exhale, go ahead and step the feet up. Inhale, find half back. Exhale and fold. Wiggle those feet out so that they're hip width distance apart. Take that bend in the knees, sweep the arms up, find chair pose. Exhale, right up to standing, hands to heart center. Inhale and circle. Exhale and fold. Inhale, find half back. Exhale, plant the hands, step it back to plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Good, go ahead and take an inhale, sweep that right leg up, three-legged dog. Exhale, step the hand or step the foot through. Open that back foot up to 45. We'll rise up for warrior one briefly. And then exhale and fold, step it back to plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. And exhale, downward facing dog. Take an inhale, sweep the left leg up, three-legged. Exhale, step it through. Right foot opens 45 degrees and rise up, warrior one. Inhale, exhale, fold. Sweep that left foot back. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. And exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, take that bend in the knees, gaze is forward. Exhale, hop or step it up. Inhale to half back. Exhale and fold. Wiggle those feet, make sure they're hip width distance. Take that bend in the knees and sweep the arms up. Palms facing each other. Exhale, right up to standing. Inhale and circle. Exhale and fold. Inhale to half back. Exhale, fold, pause here, and we'll just ripple it up. We have one more kind of vinyasa of that flow, but we'll pause there. I feel like the body is nice and warmed up. Alright, so now let's talk about some of the variations that I like to add to my practices, to the classes that I teach in studio and online, just to make chair pose that much more fun. Doing chair pose like this all throughout a practice could get boring. I mean, it's a great pose, but sometimes if you hold a pose and don't do anything in it, it's kind of very distracting, and it's a great mental practice to be able to hold a challenging pose for that long. But I love adding dynamic movement into my classes. I love adding that breath work into a pose. So let's go ahead and break down some of my favorite ways to make chair pose extra spicy. Alright, so we'll actually start in chair pose. Alright, so probably my number one favorite is to cue hands to heart center. So now you're in a chair pose, but with those hands to heart center. Spine is still long and neutral. Everything is exactly where it should be, except for the hands are here. I love to add extra little bits like stepping that right foot out, then that left foot out, making sure the opposite knee stays over that ankle. So we'll do this for a set of 5, I think we're at, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, or I like to separate the hands. So you're still in that hands to heart center shape, and then reach right fingertips to left and left fingertips to right. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Placing the hands back at heart center, let's walk that chair pose towards the front of the mat. And another element that I like to add is moving shapes. So from chair pose, let me cue grounding down all of that weight onto that right foot. Hands are still at heart center, so that right foot's very heavy, left foot's very light. And stepping the left foot back to a lunge, up to chair, and alternate or stay to that right side. So you're doing chair to a high lunge here. And if you wanted to, you can add some dynamic movement with your arms as well. So if you cue from chair with your arms all the way extended, you can step back into that lunge, shoot the arms back, and then bring it back up to chair. Again, alternating sides. We'll do this for a count of 5, 3, 4, and 5. Bring it back to chair, hands to heart center, and stand. Take a little break for your quads. Let's go all the way to the back of the mat. And I also like to add some movement in chair in the pose itself. All right, so let's go ahead and take that bend in the knees, sweep the arms up, and I'm gonna go ahead and cue hands to heart center again from here. So you're in that chair pose, hands to heart center, and then we're just gonna take tiny little steps all the way to the front of the mat, let the feet meet, and then all the way to the back of the mat. So those quads are firing up. You're still in the shape of chair, but you're just adding some movement to that practice. Let's go to the front and back once more. All right, and go ahead and stand. Another variation of chair that I love to add, especially to my twist classes, is, you guessed it, twisted chair. All right, so again, we're gonna go ahead and make sure our feet are hip width distance apart, ankles underneath hips, and then go ahead and sweep the arms forward, coming into chair. Again, cueing hands to heart center first. Take an inhale and exhale, twist left elbow outside or right elbow outside of that left knee, opening that chest up to the left side. Now something very important to note here is it happens to me all the time if I don't pay attention. This right knee shoots forward as I'm going into the twist. So make sure that that left shin is parallel to the right shin, all right? So you're opening up the chest to the side, staying nice and low into that chair. Inhale first, exhale, come through center, and then over to the other side. Hooking the left elbow outside of the right knee. Again, make sure that same thing isn't happening with the other side of the legs. Inhale first, exhale through center. All right, now, staying in this chair, I know your quads are probably burning. Let's make that twist a little bit more dynamic. One of my favorite things to add is inhale, exhale, twist with just the core, and twist to the left for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good, go ahead and power up to stand. Give those legs a little shake. All right, and then one last thing that I want to mention when you're doing chair pose, and maybe you want to kind of look outside the box of just that traditional shape, and maybe you've done all of the dynamic movements, is that you can also change the width of chair pose. All right, so normally it is ankles under hip bones, feet hip width distance apart, but you can also cue chair from feet together or as close together as they can. All right, take a bend in the knees, sweep the arms forward, palms facing each other. This is going to work different muscles than a wider chair. Or you can do the opposite. You can take your feet nice and wide. So about 2 hip width distance apart. The same structural core work, shoulder, chest, arms are still the same, but just in the different widths of your legs, you can add some variation to the pose, target different muscle groups as you get into those different variations. Okay, so let's take our feet nice and wide. Take that bend in the knees. You'll notice here especially those knees are externally rotated. If the knees were internally rotated here, that would put a lot of strain on the knees. So knees are still over ankles or slightly over. Sweep those arms up, and especially with those wider ones, you really want to focus on that back, not overarching. So keep up that core strength. Always warm up with some core work, some breath work. Good. Inhale first and exhale up to standing. So I hope you enjoyed looking through some of the different variations that I like to add to my yoga practices to add chair pose in. There's nothing wrong with the basic blueprint chair pose, but I like to add things up to make them a little spicy, a little extra fun, and to get creative with the poses. See you guys next week for another pose-focused yoga practice. Comment down below if you have any suggestions. Alright friends, I hope you enjoyed that pose-focused yoga flow. I really enjoy teaching them. I feel like I like to add a lot of different variations of the poses, so it's a great way for me to kind of explain all of those as sort of a precursor to some of my other yoga flows on here. So if you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, comment below a pose that you'd like me to feature in this series, and I will see you guys next week for another video. Bye!